want to bring in MSNBC White House correspondent Akayla Gardner and congressional reporter for Punchbowl News, Max Cohen. It's so great to have both of you here. So the fact that Trump, Max, is saying no to meeting with congressional Republicans at this point means that all of these cries from Democrats and Republicans alike for the role that he could play here for now falls on deaf ears. If Trump's not involved, where's the off-ramp?
Yeah, that's correct. And there's no off-ramp in sight. I'm glad you mentioned that to start off with.
Yeah.
The story here actually is that Republicans in Congress are fearful that Trump might actually want to cut a deal with Democrats, right? Because Donald Trump looks at poll numbers very closely. He's tracking the battle for the House in 2026, and he's keenly aware that if the Obamacare subsidies are not extended, which is what Democrats are asking for, this could politically harm Republicans. So some Republicans are like, we don't actually want Trump to meet with these Democrats because who knows what deal he might cut without us there watching.
It's almost like they learned from the Nancy Pelosi days.
Exactly, right? But also, I do want to add this move by Schumer and Jeffries reaching out to meet Trump. I see it as more of a messaging play because, let's be honest, last time that Trump met with the top Democrats, what happened? He gave them Trump 2028 hats, and afterwards he posted those memes of Jeffries wearing a sombrero. So it's not like there was serious negotiating happening the last time they were in a room together.
And yet I did get the sense the last time that this kind of a meeting was floated, agreed to, taken off the books, put back on the books again, and ended where Max said. The sense that I got from that one, Akayla, was the White House was almost concerned that it would look like they were stonewalling. What's their mindset on this now? They're willing to celebrate in the Rose Garden with almost all Republicans, except for Rand Paul, who wasn't invited once again because he hasn't been voting with his party on the shutdown. But how are they looking at this moment, given the backdrop that Max lays out?
Well, I think Senator Thune was a really key part of the reason why that first meeting happened. And that was why I was watching that lunch so closely yesterday to see if that there was going to be time for them to have private conversations and if the needle was going to be moved at all. But Thune talked to reporters after, and it doesn't seem like that's changed. The White House still seems to believe that they can sort of pluck off more Senate Democrats to vote for the continuing resolution that was already passed in the House. But there's no evidence that they're going to get beyond the two Democrats that have already continued to vote for this and the one independent, Angus King, who typically caucuses with Democrats, but that is still sort of the path that they're pushing towards, and it doesn't seem like at least President Trump is changing his mind on that.
I'm confused by that. And I say that because, you know, Kevin Hassett, either at the end of the week or earlier this week, said, I think that it was earlier this week, he said, I think that the government shutdown is going to end this week. And he started calling out people like Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, who, yes, is a moderate, yes, is uncomfortable with the government being shut down, but has also been one of the leading bipartisan voices in trying to say, let's, hey, get together on this and actually negotiate something. She seemed firm at the end of last week when I spoke to her asking, OK, is this deal from Thune a potential vote on subsidies? Could you get behind this? Where's the White House coming off with this idea that they could just pick off Democrats who see that what they're doing might be working to get them the health care negotiation that they want? Yeah,
frankly, that claim from Hassett raised a lot of eyebrows on the Hill because it is somewhat distanced from the reality of where Senate Democrats are. As you mentioned, someone like Jeanne Shaheen, who hates shutdown, she's an appropriator. She's also working for a deal. But hearing these people talk in the hallways, these Senate Democrats, there's no sign that they're softening. And if anything, the longer this goes on, they might actually be hardening in their stances because they know that if they fold at this point with no Obamacare subsidies extended, that will be a failure for their base. And it's almost this situation we're in, which is we're already over 3 weeks in. It's getting harder for Democrats to back out because they've promised their voters we're going to fight for health care. How can they then go and vote for that Republican CR without any health care provisions and say to their base, hey, sorry, we did the best we can? That's not going to fly.
Yeah, I also think that with the base broadly, even some kind of win on subsidies still might not be enough because there's so much pent-up demand for fight and resistance from the base. That's a different discussion, though. I think, Akayla, you also talk about the way that the White House might not be doing active negotiating, but they're doing a ton of trolling. What does that look like, and why is it helpful here?
Well, yeah, the White House is sort of flooding the zone in a way that I think looks a lot more like a campaign account than what you typically see from the White House.
Yeah, that's been true.
Yeah, I think even the Biden White House had these sort of moments where they would troll Republicans, but it wasn't very frequently. We're seeing the White House do that all the time, and it really reflects how the president approaches social media. He's on social media all hours of the day, very frequently, posting things that are, quite frankly, seen as controversial a lot, and the White House is really leaning into that, sort of kind of building off of the things that we see the president post on Truth Social and using it as a way to generate headlines, to generate controversy. We saw the White House just last week join Blue Sky, and they made headlines for that too, sort of stepping into a space that is really seen as an alternative to X and frankly where the users tend to be more progressive.
Yeah, I mean, the shock value on social media has always been really a feature, not a bug, of the president's social media strategy writ large. It's not just the social media. He's calling the head of the Office of Management and Budget Darth Vader. That's literally how he introduced him at that Republican lunch yesterday. So he's fine with this idea that they are, almost casting themselves as a villain in this and ripping out government programs that he says benefit Democrats, but in fact are relied on by Americans of all political stripes. It's far from the only story that we're following in Washington, though. You guys know we're always keeping our eyes on a million things, including this next story.